Hi everyone, thanks for joining us again. Today we're really excited about our special guest, Gareth Cahill from the Dominion Lending Centers. If you're receiving our emails, you would have been invited to Gareth's event, One Property More, in November. So before we go any further, I'll just introduce everyone at the table. I'm Christine Sweeney, this is Sarah O'Neill, Mike Adams, Sue Mills, Lauren Rebecca, Katie Mills, and Gareth. So I guess I'll kick it off. Gareth, what made you decide to be a mortgage broker?
Well, first of all, thanks for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to see you guys again. Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year.
Everybody in unison, that was awesome. So what made me start to be a mortgage broker? This is going to go back maybe 20 years. So background is Irish. I was a mortgage broker back home. I used to work in the banks. But for me, I just never liked the constant product push. The constant on your back from managers, like, why didn't you sell the credit card? Why didn't you push the checking account? Why didn't you do this? It's that constant sales environment. So any part of the financial planning process, mortgages was always the part of it that I enjoyed the most. It's something as a buyer you want a home, everybody's right to kind of home ownership. And I always enjoyed being part of that process. Wasn't a big fan of the mutual fund conversation. I didn't see the value in it. Home ownership, again, like I said, people's excitement is what pulled me into the industry. And so I left the bank and said, right, this is where I want to do full time. This was the conversation I enjoyed, so let's do it every single day. Awesome. That was kind of it. So that started about 20 years ago. Like I said, that was in Ireland. So I suppose global financial meltdown in 2008 brought me to Canada. So back then I started back in the banks to see if, I suppose, the corporate world in Canada was any different. It wasn't. So it was back to, so I was jumping between positions, between the different banks, just kind of looking for that fit, that home for me. And I quickly realized that it's getting back to mortgage brokering, back to that passion was where I wanted to be. So we moved back in there about 7 years ago, doing this again full time, and haven't looked back since. Best decision I ever made.
Awesome.
That's great.
That's so good.
Yeah.
So Christine mentioned the One Property More seminar, which was so great because you held that and hosted that with our clients in November. And that's really sort of a seminar you specialize in about talking about investing.
Yeah, and again, going back, it's a passion. So like, we all know real estate is a great investment. Anyone who's owned property in the GTA over the last, well, you can go back as far as records go. And we've seen that accumulation in prices. We've seen that accumulation in wealth. So it was more just kind of spreading that message, educating anyone who wants to listen about the power of owning real estate and how easy it is to actually own that extra property, how easy it is to kind of get that one property more and benefit from it. So like we do everything, and we were doing a lot of first-time buyers. Again, love seeing the joy of a first-time buyer getting that keys to their first home. But it kind of progressed to showing investors how they can now use real estate to grow wealth. And so we've been running that seminar for a good few years now, and it's been very well received. We've had a lot of people go through, I don't want to say it's a program because it's not something we're selling, but it's literally just education. And then kind of showing those aha moments that this is possible. This is what can be achieved. And
along those lines, we love helping people get into their first time homes, and everybody's goal seems to be paying down their mortgage, and I guess maybe you can tell us how maybe a little separate from that goal, how people can, instead of paying down their mortgage, think in terms of how they can use their home to potentially buy a second home.
Exactly. Well, and to your point, like it's when we were working in the banks, and as a former financial advisor and financial planner, we'd be sitting down having those goal-orientated conversations with our clients, and we'd hear, like, what are you hoping to achieve? What's your goals over the next 3 to 5 years, or even potentially longer? And you can kind of narrow them down to those three. Help pay for the kids' education. Let's get the mortgage paid off as quick as possible. Let's start planning towards the retirement. And in a lot of these cases, sometimes we don't start planning these things, or we don't start looking towards retirement or the kids' education until the kids are going to university, or until retirement is on the horizon, and we kind of look back and we think, well, all the advice that we've received, whether it's from our bank or from our parents or our friends or anyone we're kind of sitting with, I wouldn't say it's been wrong advice, but there could be a better way. And that was the whole point of the seminar, the one that we did with the team, was to get that message out there. Here's something else to consider. Have you looked into that second property? Have you looked into owning one more piece of real estate? And all those goals that most Canadians have and even keep people up at night worrying about can be achieved by just having that second piece of real estate, sitting on it, renting it out, let somebody else pay that mortgage, let that equity grow, sell it in the future, refinance it in the future, and take that growth, take that profit, and put that towards your goals. If the goal is to pay your mortgage off, do it. You'll do it in half the time. If your goal is to send the kids to the best universities in Canada, do it. By buying that piece of real estate, it's possible. Or if your goal is to have the best retirement that you've ever dreamed of, depends on how expensive that retirement is.
Maybe two properties more.
At least you're halfway there with one or two properties. That is.
Well, that was sort of my aha moment in your seminar. Was you have this great way of describing it as the old school way of thinking and the new school way of thinking. And I was like, old school, here I am, and it really hit me at what you were talking about, and I think you did a great job of explaining how the average person can really do this. So maybe one point is how much equity can someone take out of their home?
Yeah, and then we frequently hear that I am that old school. I suppose it shows people are paying attention when they quote back to me that I'm the old school with that kind of mentality. And that's fine. Like there's no right or wrong way to do this, but some ways can just be that little bit more advantageous. But when you have a piece of real estate, whether it's your home, whether it's even a property you bought a long time ago, or even a cottage that you got, or it was even passed down through the family, just you owning that real estate, you can use that to generate more wealth, essentially, or even use that to buy another property. So whatever the current market value is today, you can basically access up to 80% of that. So if you're thinking of how much is that in dollars and cents, essentially, whatever the current market value is, 80% of that today, and then if you owe anything or if you have a current mortgage on your property, basically take that away, and whatever that difference is, that's what you can access.
Awesome.
Yeah, so
And the
it's
idea is you'd use that as a down payment to buy another property that you would then put tenants in. The tenants would help pay that mortgage, ideally pay the whole mortgage.
Yeah.
And
that's it exactly. Yeah, it's not overly complicated. It's just it can be nervous taking that first step, and like the concept is simple, but if you've never actually done it before, there can be a little bit of nervousness about getting the tenant in, finding the right property, and obviously that's where you guys come in. You can help them find that right property. We'll gladly share our experiences on how to kind of select the right tenant, and there is nervousness to it, but the concept itself is quite simple.
Yeah, and you just do a great job of explaining how accessible this really is to a lot of people.
Well, that's it. A lot of people can do it. It's just generally people just don't know where to start. And I suppose that's where we put this presentation together, is because we went to our database and we said, well, like you've all bought, because like we used to do a lot of the first-time buyer seminars, you've all bought, you've created a lot of wealth through real estate, so why haven't we bought more? Like you've seen the benefits of owning a home. So have you ever explored the concept of another one? Like what's holding you back? And the answers and what we heard back surprised us. Like we thought people were going to be saying that they're scared, too risky, but they just didn't know where to start. They thought they had to save for the down payment, didn't know they could use their equity, and they thought being a landlord might be difficult. They didn't know where they were going to get their tenants, and they just didn't have the answers. And hence the reason we put all that together was just to, here's the information, here's the answers, this is how you do it.
Yeah, I'm like Katie. I think that that webinar, your passion for the client and really trying to help them create more wealth, like it's so apparent. I can't wait. We'll share with you at the end. We're going to try and do another one in person, but with you because it was so incredibly valuable. But for most people too, I think they just don't know like do they have to meet certain criteria to be a good investor client? How much do they? How long do they need to have owned their home? Like these are just like people, these were the type of questions we were getting, like, well, I may not fit the criteria for Gareth. Can you sort of expand a little bit on that? You sort of already touched on it, but maybe just expand a bit more.
Of course. I suppose to the question, how long have I had to kind of own my own home? Well, the beauty of owning real estate in the GTA or in Ontario is that you don't have to have owned your home that long. Like the appreciation that we've seen, yes, there's been a little bit of a softening in the market at the moment, but that just creates opportunity. Now is an awesome time to get in at a really good price. But if you've owned real estate in the GTA any longer than 2 or 3 years, you're already sitting on a lot of equity that you can put to use. Absolutely. Like, it doesn't take long. Right. And that's the beauty of the GTA. And I gave you my background where I'm from home, but I own real estate in my own country.
Right.
And nothing compares to owning real estate in the GTA. Like, the performance, the quality of tenants, just even the regulation around protecting even both sides, the tenants and the landlords.
Right.
It doesn't exist elsewhere. So Toronto gets the thumbs up. It's got things figured out. It's really a great place to invest. And I can tell you that from experience when I compare the two. But anyone who's owned real estate in this city and has seen that accumulation over the last 2 to 3 years, it doesn't take long. I was just looking back at the start of the year, we'll always assess clients we've helped in the past, if there's opportunities to help others. People who've just bought condos in 4 years ago. We just closed on their first investment property today. They took that condo that they bought. They were sitting on a lot of equity. We restructured it for them, gave them down payment. They chose to rent out the condo that they lived in, and then they bought the dream home for themselves today. So now they're living in the property they bought today, and the first property they bought 4 years ago, that's the one that they've rented out.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, so it doesn't take long. If you see anyone, I was trying to think of a criteria there, but there's not.
I think most people don't think they can.
Yeah,
I mean, your example of the family cottage is a great one. Or like you said, I mean, I know I've talked to my kids about, investing, and they've heard me talk about it over the years, but until they heard you talk about it, then it just took it to a whole different level. Oh, that makes so much sense. I thought, I've been saying that for a while. But
and that's it. We do build it up as if it's a difficult concept and only the lucky are the ones who can invest and profit off real estate. But it's something that's open to anyone.
Today with higher interest rates, people are really worried about that on both sides. Does the math still work with a high interest rate?
Yes and no. So the high interest rate is obviously the elephant in the room. We are in an elevated rate environment. Bank of Canada are going to meet at the end of this month. There's talk of potentially another rate increase. And I suppose up until, all of last year, the variable structure mortgage was always cheaper than the fixed rate mortgage. But now it's the opposite way around. The fixed rates are now cheaper than the variable rate, which does give that element of stability, and we can save money, make numbers make that bit more sense when we are structuring potential investment properties. Does it make sense? Yes and no. It always makes sense to buy real estate, especially when the prices are so low.
Right.
But if you compare the two, I would much rather buy at a low price and a high rate of interest than a high price and a low rate of interest.
Right.
The payments are going to be roughly the same.
Right.
But the good news about exactly. And the good news about today is that rents have accelerated.
Right.
Now, can't remember the exact number, but I see 20, 30% here in the GTA over the last 12 months.
20%.
Yeah. Crazy number.
Yeah.
And we don't hear about rent crashes. We never hear, that term never happens. They just seem to go up and up and up. And I've got properties where I have tenants, and I hope none of them are watching this today, but they've been in my property for about 2 years. Fantastic tenants. They've been amazing. But when they want to move, and maybe when they want to own their own house and move on, I'm going to rent that out at a much higher rate than they're paying today.
Right.
So I love them. They can stay as long as they want if they are watching here today. But when they do move out, there is an opportunity to get a higher rent, which will help cover payments.
And as you said, eventually our thought is that the rates will come down.
They will.
But having bought at a lower price, you've just got that much less to pay back, which is
and your point of entry is a lot less because you need that 20% to come to the table with when you're buying a piece of real estate. It doesn't have to come from savings. We talked about that. It can be literally sitting in the equity of your home.
Land transfer tax.
Everyone's favorite.
You can pull it all out of your property.
And I guess if you're buying in a high interest rate environment, your options, if you want the property to carry itself, you either put more down payment down in the property, or you just subsidize it for a little bit of time until you can refinance that mortgage at a lower rate.
And that subsidization that you do, that can be a sticking point for a lot of clients because they'll think that everything needs to be cash flow positive. Depending on where you're buying, that can be a difficult thing to find. So we kind of have to maybe redefine what we say is positive, what's negative. Where basically by that I mean it's never going to be perfect.
Right.
You're never going to get the full amount of rent that's going to cover the full amount of mortgage expense.
Unless
Or you
you
could.
release
You
it
should.
initially.
I shouldn't say never. Yeah, you're right.
If
You're
you
right.
put a big
correct me.
enough down payment.
Yeah, exactly. You put it or find the right property with the right rental appeal to somebody. But also, if you have to put something into a property, I don't think that's necessarily bad. Like I have properties where I do contribute on a monthly basis, and I'll tell you, I would much more gladly contribute to a mortgage payment. It's forced savings because I know if I leave this up to myself and I'm like, okay, I'm going to save $500 a month into this account.
You're going to Hawaii.
Oh,
Like,
that's
you're on a
it. Exactly. I'm on a vacation the minute this winter hits, or it's going to come Christmas and I'm just going to stop. I just don't trust myself to have that discipline. But if I'm paying a mortgage, I know it's just going to happen automatically. But whether it's $500, whether it's $6, whether it's $7, it's not necessarily like you're giving it away to somebody else because that's going to pay down a mortgage. And then when you sell that property, essentially that's all coming back to you, whether it's the equity, the growth in the property, just the profit, the return from your investment. So you're going to get it back later.
Right. It's like you're moving it from one pocket to
And
the
that's
other,
it.
right?
Yeah.
But you
But
have
a
to
much
have
better
the
one,
cash
right?
to
Because
kind of, yeah.
sorry, Lauren, didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
No,
no.
I was just going to say because when you look at like 40 years of stats for the Toronto Real Estate Board with an average growth, even during the worst of times, of like at least 6 to 7%, even though you are subsidizing, you're going to make far more in that and appreciating that asset over that time, over the next 4 or 5 years, right? I mean, using your analogy of the buyers who bought in 2018 and now have all this equity, even if they were subsidizing that slightly, they're still further ahead. So that's the piece that I think people really miss. And most people I hear always say, well, I want to be cash flow neutral. And I said, well, I find, correct me if I'm wrong, it's tough in Toronto, tough with a single like condo. Maybe if you have like a multiple tenants, like, a duplex or a triplex, maybe it's a bit easier, but generally, I think most people have to kind of subsidize that balance sheet a bit, right? Or make
And I'd also add maybe that the areas where you might find something that is potentially cash flow positive won't have the same asset appreciation that you'll get here in GTA. Like the growth, and you said it. 30-year, the Toronto Real Estate Board number is. You're going to have to help me out.
No, it's like 7%
it's like
a year.
7+%.
Yeah.
So it's quite high, and if we shorten those timelines, it just gets higher and higher as well.
Right.
Well, I think someone like myself who has young children too, if I wait the 20 years and then try to help them purchase a property, if typically the average price in the GTA doubles every 10 years, I want to buy in at today's prices, not
10 years
try
from
to
now.
start 10 or 20 years
out.
from now.
Lock
So
those
that's
prices
something
in
that's,
today,
in the meantime, a tenant is helping to pay down that mortgage, and it just gives a foothold because we've heard so many young people say, how am I ever going to afford to live in Toronto? And I think this is a great way to really get into the market at today's prices, knowing that we'll hopefully have a need down the road.
It's going to be hard for our future generations. And like I got 2 young kids, we were just talking about it, I frequently say in our seminars, they're 6 and 9. And everything I'm doing today is for them. Because when they get to that point where they've finished school, they've gone to university, they've studied hard, probably even potentially, well, depends on what steps you take, but if you've got student loans when you're leaving and you got to pay that off and then save for a down payment, plus prices are 20, 30 years more expensive than they are today, they're going to need our help. So we either help them in the future or we help them now today.
That's exactly what we did when we entered into the investment market. So our goal was really 3 kids. We thought, well, if we can get ourselves to 3 properties, if all goes to hell in a handbasket, we know our kids will have houses to live in. And so our goal was really to help our kids and provide potentially a house for each of those kids. As it turns out, they're all now going to be on their way and have their own houses. So now it's going to just be retirement for us, which is awesome, right? So, but you can your plans can evolve, but there's just no bad scenario there.
And retirement for you, when the time comes, if and when the time comes.
Yeah, never worry. If I'm like my dad, 92, but anyways.
But because you took those steps, those kids, your grandkids, they're going to be close to you. So when it comes to your retirement, you can see them. Like they're going to be they're not going to have to move out of province, out of town, just to find something that's within their price range, something affordable. But when going back to what you were saying earlier about, that both you were saying about subsidizing rents today, like we're all saving into things. Like we're saving into those retirement savings plans. We're saving into the kids' education plan. So it's not like we're impacting budgets. We're all working towards something. We should have some sort of investment in place. It's just one other place to kind of either redirect it or put it. I'm not saying never stop saving. Saving is hugely important. It's definitely worth doing. but it's another option that you can explore.
Another point that I found really interesting in chatting with you was some of us have other debts. We might have a car loan or a lease payment, and just how impactful those things are to how much money you can borrow for a mortgage. So I think it's really helpful to speak to someone like you just when you're making some of those other life decisions and how impactful. I think the numbers you said were, for every $500 of a lease payment, for example, that would be $100,000 worth of mortgage. So, I mean, I think those other things people maybe aren't thinking when they're leasing a car or buying a car.
And that's exactly it. Now, and again, those numbers, that $500 lease payment or car payment or credit card payment can impact a mortgage amount by up to $100,000. And people often ask why. It's like, it's only $500, or it's the debt is only $10,000.
Right.
But it's not so much how much you owe the bank, it's how much you've committed on a monthly basis towards that payment. So the way a bank will look at that is that if you've got $500 going towards a car payment or a car lease, well, that's $500 that cannot go towards the mortgage. You've already committed to that debt. So again, some of the simple steps you can take is just those restructures. So,
and I think that's where you can be really helpful. Like our clients that called you after our last webinar, they all commented just how great you were and just no pressure. Like you're not there to sell them something. It was just they gave you the financial situation. And sometimes you come back and say, you know what, do this, this, and this, and let's talk again. Or sometimes, yep, you're ready to go. But I think just being able to look at somebody's big financial picture, what are the incomes, what are the debt, what's your house worth, and just some few key points can give you a really clear picture on how you can help people and what's possible for them.
Oh, I love to hear it. Thanks for letting me know that.
That's
great to hear back.
That's the financial planning background,
that's it.
probably. Yeah.
So we've always taken a holistic view of everything. We're here to help. And if we're not guiding clients on what way to do and what's potentially in their interest to do, what they do with that advice, honestly, is up to them. There's no pressure from our side.
Right. And sometimes even, as Christine was saying, planning. Yeah. Because this is your situation now, and maybe now isn't necessarily the right time, but if this is your goal, here are some things you can do to work towards it.
And that's it. And the internet, love it or hate it, there's a lot of information out there. And you could technically just Google all this stuff, but it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
The amount of information that gets thrown at you. The stats will show whether it's investing in mutual funds or whether it's in real estate.
Right.
Working with an expert, you'll get further. You can technically do anything on your own, but working with an expert, you're going to get.
It's just so much more time effective and somebody that you trust that will give good, honest advice. I mean, I could probably learn how to fix my kitchen sink, but Lord knows, why?
You'll spend hours looking at YouTube videos and you're going to drench yourself. But you could.
Gareth, I was going to ask you if any sort of client success stories come to mind, and I'm based on kind of what Katie was just saying, the one that you shared with us before, without sort of talking about the specific numbers. I know that's easier with visuals, but the clients who basically had outstanding debt in addition to their mortgage and were able to sort of clear all of that plus buy another property. I think it's more about sort of defining what that success actually is in investing.
We spoke very briefly about the couple who just bought their second home recently.
Right, with the condo.
Everything you just said is exactly what they did. They had the mortgage. When they bought the home, they only put down minimum down payment. So first time
when they bought the condo?
5%. Can't remember what the price was. It was just over $400,000. It was in that Square One area. They put down minimum down payment. They've been in the property for a couple of years.
Yeah.
But they had a car. There was debt that accumulated just naturally in life. But then when we did that restructure for them, to give them the down payment for that next purchase, so they needed about $200,000. But the next purchase was supposed to $1 million for their home, so they needed that $200,000. But there was debt. But luckily, they built up all that equity. So we had the property appraised at today's value.
Yeah.
We had a look at the plan. They paid down some of their mortgage. They had they bought 4 years ago. They took it over 21 years left on their mortgage. So what we did was we took that 21 years and we spread it out over the 30 years.
Right.
So there's no impact on the budget today. So what they were used to paying on a monthly basis doesn't change.
Yeah.
And the big difference for them is now they've got a tenant covering all those expenses for them. So that is not a burden on them.
Right.
It didn't impact their lifestyle that they were accustomed to. So gave them the equity, gave them the $200,000 that they needed to put down the purchase. We paid off the car loan so that they didn't have that monthly payment. It wasn't impacting their affordability on the next purchase. And they went and found the next property. And they're like, it's a young couple in their 20s.
Amazing.
And they're 2 properties down. Wait till they're 30, 40 years of age. 2 properties growing in value. Mortgages both being paid down. They're very much on the right track.
Yeah, and although we love to sell properties, the truth is we're always telling people keep your
You can.
properties.
You absolutely can.
Yeah, and the goal is to buy something and then just keep it almost indefinitely. Like
Right.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not possible to keep it.
Right, yeah, and that's great, but that's fine.
When I bought my first home, loved it. Thought it was going to be there for 10 years, but we needed a bigger space. Family was growing, in-laws were coming to live with us as well, so we needed a bigger space.
Yeah.
So we sold it. As much as I wanted to keep it, and it would, in hindsight, it was a great investment opportunity. There's potential for upstairs, downstairs, and 2 rental incomes coming from it. But it makes, at the time,
Sometimes
we
you
couldn't
have
keep
to
it.
do your next
we had to
step.
make it. We had to make that choice.
Yeah.
Absolutely no regrets, because we're very happy with the home we bought, and we're still living in there now. But sometimes it's just not possible.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you can't.
But especially those secondary properties, the income properties, if you can hold on to those,
Yeah.
that's awesome. And if not, you've got a chunk of equity there that you wouldn't have otherwise had, and you can use it for what you need it for when you need it.
Yeah.
And there's other instances where if you can't keep hold of your current home and you have to let it go, it doesn't mean you can't still invest. You just maybe have to have a lower price property. If you had a townhome, maybe it has to be a condo instead. It's still the theory's still the same. Still rent it, still let somebody else pay the mortgage, still let it grow, and I think you'll be better off. Actually, I know you'd be better off in a few years, is what I should say.
And Gareth, I think Sue touched on it. We always, value referring people we trust implicitly to our clients. Like, it's so important that, we view you very much as part of our team. So it just maybe because a lot of people don't know is and they can hear your passion and that you have a holistic view of looking at their whole financial situation, but they don't know how you get paid, or some people may not know, do they have to pay you for that? So can you just share that? Because I think it's a real misunderstanding on the public's part of how a mortgage broker works.
It's a very fair question. And when we do have our conversations with our clients, that first kind of introduction, we get it out of the way front and center.
Right.
No, you don't pay us.
Right.
And how we get paid is we get paid by the bank.
Right.
So whatever lender you as the client end up choosing, we'll give you the options. We'll go through the pros and cons of each one, because there is pros and cons with each one. Not every mortgage is created equally.
Yeah.
We lay out the pros and cons. You pick the mortgage that works for you and your situation. We'll certainly make a recommendation if you like it. And then the lender that you choose, they pay us for introducing that business to them. Now, what's in it for the lender is, they get a fully packaged client.
Right.
So they don't have to go source them. They don't have to underwrite it. They don't have to market.
Right.
And we deliver it to them. So it's a win for them as well.
Right.
So they pay us for introducing it. It's a finder's fee. But there's no cost to the client for working with a mortgage broker. They get to basically take advantage of our expertise
And
for free.
sometimes the mortgage broker can even negotiate a better rate than if you just walk into your bank. So.
Well, that's it. Well, a bank is a corporation. And I'm not here to bash on the banks. They're our greatest supporters. Like, we probably do about 90% of our business with the TDs, the Scotias, the HSBCs. Right. I'm not looking to bring people to lenders that they've never heard of. Like, my mortgages are with banks. Like, they are huge supporters of what we do, and they've got some of the best products out there. There's a lot of lenders out there. There is definitely a fit for every kind of situation. Well, for a lot of situations. But no, banks are huge supporters of what we do, and
as soon as you have those connections and
if you have a relationship with TD, I'm going to bring you to TD if you're happy with what TD are doing. But at least we'll make sure you're well explained and advised on everything mortgage related, anything they need to know. We've seen it all.
Yeah.
So we know what to look out for and what to point out.
Great. Gareth, this was excellent.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for not only sharing your personal stories, but some recent wins of your clients too. I think all of us are definitely looking forward to the full presentation that you're going to be doing on February 28th.
I look forward to it. It'll be our first live one.
First live one, which is going to be awesome. And for those of you at home, thank you so much for watching our webinar. We hope that you can join us on February 28th with Gareth Cahill. As always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. And if you liked our video, please give us a like and a subscribe to our channel.